this morning I added this to my playlist, but I didn't cover it. I didn't cover it, right? But I do want to cover it because there's specifically they start talking about like who can actually believe that Jimmy Dore is a leftist. So let's get into this conversation. I don't know. Maybe I will. I'll do the whole thing. It's 17 minutes. I'm gonna try not to interject so much, but I'll do some.
If you all wanted to talk about this, we could be opening Pandora's box. But I watched a video from Lance yesterday, and I cracked up all the way through. This was
Lance is the surf. You'll probably be able to figure that out through the conversation. But he's the guy that's the surf's TV. That's Lance.
the Libtardo one.
Watching a video from Lance is opening Pandora's box.
Oh, we got, yeah.
I wanted to circle around it before I dropped the name, but it was so fucking funny.
Yeah, circle around it, yeah.
If Lance wants to give us like the rundown of the whole situation where it got to the "you're Jimmy" moment, it would make my life. It would make my fucking life.
Well, fill me in.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna I'll pass this one off to Matt at one point because Matt really did do a lot of detective work and sleuthing and put in the hours. So I don't want to take away his glory of discovering Libtardo 1.
No, there's no,
for the uninitiated.
Taken away, but go ahead.
Well, I'll hand it off to you because that part's even more hilarious. But for the uninitiated, Jimmy Dore's well known to have a burner account for 2 or 3 or 4. We don't know. He's got a lot of accounts on Twitter. Likes to sometimes use those accounts to speak about himself, or his wife is using them. Right, Matt?
It is quite amazing how many troll accounts follow that particular network of live streamers. I mean, I'm sure Jeff Campbell would have some things to say about that. But yeah, we've seen, like, I've had a criminal troll come after me and actually stay in my house for 2 weeks. They are working with some really crazy people, and they're creating a lot of their own burner accounts. And I think Nico House actually got in trouble for doing the same thing as what they're about to say here. But a lot of Republicans have gotten in trouble for like switching out their accounts. And like one of them, I think, was like a politician who had like a secondary account, and he was trying to purport himself to be like a black MAGA person. And he thought he was in that account, and he was like tweeting out, "I am a black man," and it was like from his main account.
I'm not off on that. It's either him or his wife.
Pretty sure it's him at this point, but it could be his wife for some of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it's stuff you'd expect. You know, when you're starting out, the game's the game. It's hard to make it in social media, so you maybe start a couple accounts to validate yourself every now and then. You'll be like, I could write something out and be like, yeah, and then use my other account to be like, Lance is right. Lance is so great and handsome. Everyone loves Lance and talks about how cool he is too. That kind of thing. So that's the equivalent of what's going on here. Anyways, I start feuding with Jimmy online because I made a post about how he was laughing. Like, first off, he laughed at Rebel News. Rebel News is a far right Breitbart-like equivalent in Canada. You should not ever have to give it up to Rebel News. Don't, even if they're like, going after, the head of a pharmaceutical company, they're going to ask them, what about the 5G magnetism? They're not going to actually ask good questions. So they did that to Greta Thunberg, and they asked a whole bunch of silly questions, like, why is it so cold here? What about the global warming, things like that. And I said, it's so sad that Jimmy was laughing at this as a gotcha. And so, Jimmy's fans must have shown him. He replies and immediately, it's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. You lied about me. I pushed back. You're all liars over there. And then he went back and forth with some other people in the thread and eventually forgot that he was using his actual blue check mark Jimmy Dore account.
I will bring the tweets up. They're hilarious.
Yeah, it's so fucking good.
By the way, okay, so we're also going to get into Oliame, which I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I don't know if I am. Says that she's new to this, that she didn't know who any of these people were. Well, you need to learn, because the last video I covered by DJ Elf7, your name is listed in the title for that Jordan Sheridan Status Q video. And if you're just randomly going around and doing interviews with anybody and you don't know anything about these people, that can be pretty bad for you. Jordan Sheridan is somebody who dances across the line and oftentimes promotes Jimmy Dore type shit. So you do need to be a little bit careful about who you're willing to do interviews with. because that particular network is kind of a sister to what's going on with Jimmy Dore and Nico House and the Kava Couch and all of these crazy ass libertarians who are trying to pose themselves as progressive leftists. But okay, take a look at the tweet.
He's straight up, yeah. Like, so I woke up to this. I'll have you all know. I woke up and I'm like in my bed and I'm scrolling through,
God,
and then all of a sudden I saw this. I was like, no, you didn't just write this in the third person.
No, this right here, this is why I don't have an alt account. This right here, this is happening. This shit is saying you cannot live down. This happened to even one of my friends, like a figure onto it, and I was just like, bitch, I cannot.
And the thing is, the only reason you would have an alt account is if you have like a business, you're trying to keep business separate from your personal life, but you would probably still retain your own identity, right? Or you just want to have some booster accounts to kind of like help along the algorithms, but you're probably not going to actually put comments down. You're probably just going to do likes and shares. But like to actually try and set up an alt account and like impersonate a fan and speak of yourself in the third person is fucking nuts. That's so crazy, you guys.
I will say though, potentially in his defense, maybe he's trying to be the character in Seinfeld who always called himself Jimmy and his name was Jimmy, and it creates this whole issue with Elaine. So maybe that's what he's trying to pull off here. I don't know.
Maybe he suddenly started to refer to himself in the third person.
Yes, exactly.
Who knows? If we're being charitable here.
Why, like, your Jimmy has me fucking screaming.
You know what's awesome about this? He takes ratios so seriously. Like, I watched the segment the other day of his. He was saying that he was proven right about COVID because of a ratio that he himself helped make. I was like, look at this. Their own fans are turning against them. This proves that I was right. It's so good that I was proven right on all of this, you know? And now he's just getting blown out of the water.
That's so embarrassing. That's why I just curse people out with my whole chest. Like, I don't understand. Like, why not just be like, fuck you, Lance? Like, clearly, like...
And that's the weirdest thing to me is I don't understand like the whole culture behind ratios, because I literally, if you reply, if you comment, if you reshare, if you quote tweet or whatever, you are increasing the algorithms on that original tweet. And so you're getting more people to see it than would have previously. And that's their entire purpose. So like when Jackson Hinkle puts out his bullshit, ridiculous statements on Twitter, he knows that it's going to piss so many people off that people are going to retweet it. And y'all just contributing to it. You know, y'all just like, yep, I find that absolutely ridiculous, and therefore I'm going to comment on it. And if we get more likes than you do on your original tweet, therefore we have ratioed you. What's the point of that? Who the hell has time? Look, I'm on medical leave. I don't even have fucking time for that bullshit. I don't even have time for that fucking bullshit. I'm on medical leave. What, do you all just like live with your parents and you have time to do this bullshit all day?
I was just, yeah.
Here, I'm gonna bring up this video, by the way, but no, sorry, keep talking.
No, that's also embarrassing that you don't have like a main fan that could have taken that flagship for you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why'd you have to do it? Like, I'm sure you have fans who will come at Lance and be like,
oh, hey.
Well, come on now. It's because of control freak behavior. He can't trust that one of his fans is going to say exactly what he wants out there, right? So he's got his alt accounts so that he can direct the messaging behind like what should be said. But dumbass didn't actually switch accounts before he actually tweeted that out.
And they defended him afterwards. They were like, oh, what, Surfs? Like, you've never had someone else use your social media account? I was like, no. How rich and famous do you think I am? I'm like a PR person? Are you kidding me?
So this is when Elaine meets Jimmy. And keep in mind, when Jimmy's talking about himself. He's Jimmy.
Look at me. Come on. I'm stretching right in front of you. Hey, smile. we made contact.
Jimmy is pretty sweet on you.
It looks like a young Jimmy too.
Jimmy's been watching you. Just Jimmy's type.
Ah, really?
Jimmy's new in town. Jimmy doesn't really know anyone.
Oh, well, I'd like to get to know.
Jimmy would like to get to know you.
Anyways, eventually, it continues on, and she finds out that he's Jimmy.
It's her reaction. You're Jimmy.
She's like, wait, no, that was Jimmy's friend. Wait, no, that's Jimmy.
It's so good because the whole reason that he ended up doing this was because Lance had shared a clip of him with the Rebel News and Greta Thunberg, and like he was defending them, basically harassing her for 20 minutes about the dumbest things. Like he was basically pretending as if Rebel News had legitimate questions to ask to Greta, as if they weren't trolls. Like they're asking her to basically explain the difference between climate and weather, so she naturally just disregards what they had to say, and she went along with her business. But one thing that I have to say, with regard to the Libtard 01 saga, I do want Matt Bender to look into some additional accounts because, so I'm not sure if you saw this. So the Vanguard responded and they shared a clip of Jimmy Dore kind of running away from some conversation that he had.
And what's the story behind the Vanguard too? Because like I don't know anything really about them except that I think they were originally with the Force the Vote crowd. And then somehow they detached, and I know they're younger, but they seem kind of suspect to me too. Like, I don't know what's going on with that particular group.
About Ukraine. And so, they were kind of juxtaposing that with the Greta thing, where he was criticizing Greta because Greta wouldn't answer basic questions, wouldn't defend her position. And so the Vanguard was like, well, what about you doing this? And so they shared that clip on Twitter. And then Jimmy Dore did not respond directly, but he went through their thread and retweeted individual replies to the Vanguard of them criticizing. So these
Well, yeah, you should do a deeper dive on that because is their entire purpose to be faux opposition? Because originally they were on board with him and his concepts, and I think they were even doing like cross interviews because that's how they do, right? Like just like what you all are doing right now, like you are cross advertising your platforms by having a panel, right? Jimmy Dore has been engaging in that shit for years, where he highlights other live streamers, and the Vanguard were some of them, and then they had some sort of falling out, but it seems more like it's a faux fight just to have his name come up on their show and have some cross advertising.
tweets in particular are very sussy, and I feel like those could potentially be the next Libtard 01. Libtard 02, might I say. So there's some stuff for you there, Matt.
While I have you all here on this, right? Because obviously I was late to the
party.
Yeah. I was late to the Jimmy Dore. I only barely know who he is now. I have some information, and I usually just try to keep my. But I know this. I have realized that anybody who likes Jimmy Dore seems to hate us. Like I hate us. I mean y'all, and now me too. So no, might as well just.
I apologize.
You're welcome, Ole.
No, I be getting so much I get so many sprays because y'all. They just be shooting me all week. I be like, I don't even know these fucking people.
It's because they're literally right wingers, and most of them I think know that. A few of them maybe don't realize it, but I think at this point most of them realize what the hell's going on.
They do know. There's a meme maker who loves Jimmy Dore who makes memes of all of us, and there was one video of Salt Bae sprinkling us into a toilet. And my face that they used was like smiling to the crowd. And then they photoshopped Jimmy's face on Salt Bae laughing, and also Tucker Carlson and some other right winger. I can't remember who, but like these are right wingers. Like they know it. Maybe there's a few leftists who think that he's left wing at this point, but it's got to be a small.
Those so lack that they become right. You know what I mean? Like they don't even realize it. Like
horseshoe theory come to life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like in that clip that he got mad about, he was starting to like question out loud if the reason Greta was doing what she was doing was because of autism. And I was like, this was like what the right was putting out there, like 6 years ago, I want to say, was the kind of like super yikesy takes that they would come out. Like, well, she's acting that way because of the autism. Like, what the fuck are you saying right now?
He's not very old.
2023.
Mm.
Yeah,
because he looks very old to me.
Yeah, there's old people who aren't assholes, like Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
He's not like doing this
right,
shit.
but like, why are he on these people's head? Like, I don't really. It seems to me the only time I see him, and don't nobody, please don't get me in no bullshit. Don't tag me this man. I don't know him. I don't let him personal. But the only time I ever see anything from him or any mention from him or his world, it just seems like just trying to like dunk on other people that you allege to be on your same side of the fence, but you're like this litmus test. So it just feels like that all the time. It just always feels like really petty things. Like, oh my God, like the Dore, like this whole, I was right. Every time I see him, something about him on the timeline, it's like, he said that. I'm like, what? Yeah, we have a tally somewhere? Like, why are you?
He can score for himself.
Every time I see him, I'm like, okay, guys.
And that's why, like, anytime someone brings up the idea that the left is they're too puritanical, they're purists, they're all this thing. What pops in my head are people like Jimmy Dore who pretend to be on the left, but are on the right, make money pretending they're on the left. All they do is attack the left. Like, you're never going to get rid of those people. Like, you can criticize the left all you want about how pure we are or whatever. Like, I'm very welcoming. I want to educate. I don't expect people.
David, I wholly expect that you need to cover Vosh and his Meninist beliefs, because he just put out a video a few days ago that I've gotten all kinds of crap about for my commentary on, that he's a Meninist. He's blaming the left for pushing young white men to follow Andrew Tate. Okay? So it would be nice if somebody with a little bit more clout, such as yourself, covered the topic as well, because I'm getting beat the fuck up by his white supremacist followers right now.
To be born with the right position. I used to be basically conservative. Like, I understand people can grow and change. People like Jimmy are always going to exist because there's always going to be that incentive there to try and make money off of pretending you're on the left. Whereas, like, is there a right winger in media that's like really well known who only attacks the right? Like, does that exist?
I just find it so
There's no fucking money to do that.
No, there isn't. No, that's an excellent point, David. There isn't. You only ever see that from our side of it. Whatever kind of business, you only ever see it from our side. It's this content. Why are you calling yourself a leftist? Oh, you're this. Like, and I'm just like, it feels so unproductive. And I think about this. I'm like, are you actually producing content? Are you actually advocating for anything or message, or are you just shitting on everybody else's? Are you just responding to what they're doing? And that's what it feels to me. Like, oh, people know Greta, so now you shitting on Greta. Oh, this, da da da. Every time I look, I see you're like dunking on some other commentator, and I'm like, are you saying anything worthwhile if all you do is monitor what the other commentators say and be mad at that and shit on that and galvanize your support or lack of around that? Like, why are you trying to make yourself some kind of little demigod? Like, bro, just say what you have to say and shut the fuck up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people need to go with it and they don't. Like, but I don't.
You know what I think they're trying to do, actually? I don't think that they're leftists, but I think what they're trying to do is like emulate Archie Bunker, Wally George, and even John Colbert when he had his own program and he was pretending he was a right winger. But in those cases, they were actually leftists who were making fun of the right. And in this case, it's not funny. He's not, if that's supposed to be comedy to him, it's not fucking funny. That's why it seems actually like he really does actually buy into the bullshit that he's saying.
Understand the need to, I feel like, if I think about it, I don't know many people that are like staunchly in the commentator space and abolitionists in the way that I am. And I'm not like, every time something policing happens, I'm like, let me kick y'all in the chest. I'm not on Twitter like, yeah, I fucking told you.
Okay, and this is where I wanted to wrap it up, because she says she doesn't know anybody. Pretty much the entire progressive delegates network in California is totally fucking on board with Jimmy Dore and all of the bullshit lower live streamers that come along with him. That's why when they had their March for Medicare for All, which was Movement for the People's Party, that was a Movement for the People's Party sponsored event. Despite the fact that the Progressive Delegates Network is supposed to be a Dem enter society, right? Like, it's supposed to be progressives who are entering the California Democratic State Party to reform the party. That is supposed to be their purpose. But instead, they have aligned themselves more so with people like Jimmy Dore and the Movement for the People's Party. And so when they had their March for Medicare for All, they did not actually invite any medical professionals to speak at the biggest events. They had people like, in LA, they had Jimmy Dore, they had Fiorella Isabel, they had Jackson Hinkle. They did not have any medical experts who could, or anybody like from Canada who, or like another socialist country that could talk about what it looks like to have national health care. And back east, Joy Marie Mann was one of the featured speakers. And she took her opportunity to berate Cori Bush just for showing up and offering support for the event. So really, their purpose is not to be progressives. Their purpose is not to actually get the legislation that we want passed. Their purpose is to be negative and harmful and disruptive. And when you say, I don't know anybody who does this, well, I do. And it's really sad. Because when I started getting involved in politics, I really wanted to make a difference. And then I started realizing that the people in charge of the Feel the Burn Dem clubs and the Our Revolution chapters and PDA chapters, I've come across them in every one of these organizations, that they just want to cause chaos. They really are not interested in actually being effective at passing this legislation. And they are pushing just a ton of right-wing talking points, especially anti-Democratic Party talking points, but also anti-squad talking points, because every time we actually successfully get somebody into government, they're mad at us because we did something. We got something right. And so they get mad at us because we got somebody in.
You're a real abolitionist. You're a fake abolitionist. Like, can you like,
No, it's not like,
Correct
oh,
again. Vindicated. Hell yeah.
I think like it would be different. I understand. I would get it more if they were having, if we weren't if you're not the people that are the face of something and you're making a larger conversation. If you're just saying something to your friends and private in the like, but you're the person people are going to for discourse and conversation. So now you wasted time and energy, and a bunch of people are now focused on some stupid shit, like criticizing somebody else or commenting on that, as opposed to actually running on, like advocating for anything. It's just so annoying.
My favorite is when they bring someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Trump and be like, they're further left than AOC is. It's just like some bullshit.
David, I just sent you a video in the chat about that very thing. It's
Okay, I'll wrap it up here. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my point, is that a lot of the people who have been tearing me down for the last 5 years are people who align themselves with Jimmy Dore and Nick Brana and Karen Burnell, and that's the kind of bullshit we have to deal with all the goddamn time. Even some of my allies, I see them slip away. I see them slip away into this network of toxic bullshit that is getting us nowhere.